topic in 10 minutes because that was the task we had to do here, 10 minutes. And so I think it is a very good effort by Dr. Anajo, Fernando, and Professor Shu, who did it less than 10 minutes. So I thought a topic which maybe I could present in about 10 minutes is a topic of scarce resources. Indonesia, like many other countries in this region and in many developing countries, face the problem of having scarce resources to provide public services, especially in the area of health. Now, of course, I plan to discuss this at two levels. First, at the macro level, which means resource allocations decisions in at the national level. And secondly, maybe if I'm still within the 10 minutes, on the micro level, which has been discussed also yesterday, of having scarce resources in the ICU and how to treat patients who are on life support and the priorities of giving this scarce resources, or to allocate these resources to patients. And then, of course, also the ethical dimensions. In providing scarce resources, I think these ethical principles apply. These general ethical principles of beneficence, non-beneficence, respect for persons, justice and equity, utility, and of course, truth-telling. Decision-making in the face of scarce resources should take into consideration political aspects, but also ethical principles. Taking these two aspects into consideration, then priority setting should be based on scientific principles and the available resources economically. Then rationing of the priorities, rationing based on priorities should be done, and we should aim for programs which are sustainable, not only on programs which has a short-term effect. Now, how do we assess whether these programs at the macro level are just and adhere to the principle of justice in providing the scarce resources? First, we have to look at the existing laws and regulations, the government regulations in public services and in public health. And then we have to look, of course, at the budget, whether the politicians say or do what they are saying, or just say but they do differently. Look at the budget, whether the resources allocated to public services, especially in health, are indeed just compared to resources allocated for other purposes. Now, I would like to make a case study of Indonesia. Indonesia at present has many difficulties. We have economic problems with also with rising oil prices and so on, and the weakening of our currency. And there are also disease outbreaks like dengue, hemorrhagic fever, malnutrition, and also Recently, I just read in the paper this morning, there are some cases of avian flu. So the problem faced by the decision makers is, what shall we do? Shall we provide better medical curative services, or shall we provide more preventive measures and health promotion? Of course, in the short run, I mean, if you have an epidemic, then you must take measures, curative measures, for this purpose. But besides that, you should also take measures to prevent these matters happening again in the future. So there is no ongoing struggle between, shall we provide for curative services or shall we provide for public health? Now, if we look at the national budget in health, this is about the proportion of the national budget. I think someday Professor Xu also give a breakdown of the budget in China for the different purposes. So it seems that in Indonesia, about 40% of the budget is for promotion, prevention and promotion, and 40% is for curative services, and the rest is for other things. Now, so there is a 50-50 division. Well, this is maybe typical Indonesian thinking, because Indonesian also wants to satisfy everybody, so they just divided evenly public health and curative services. But we should do an in-depth study whether by doing this prevention and promotion, whether it's enough to do this prevention and promotion efforts to prevent future disease outbreaks, and whether maybe some of the budget for the curative services should be diverted into public health. So I see that we have in Indonesia what we call the paradigm of health. It's with the purpose to prevent sickness and to promote health. The other side is paradigm of sick. So this is treatment of the sick. So which paradigm should we adhere to? Up to a year or so ago, the official policy in health of Indonesia is the health paradigm. We try to prevent sickness and do health promotion, but with the recent disease outbreaks, the policymakers are now thinking of changing this paradigm into, or they are not thinking, they make policies which are more to the side of the paradigm of treatment of the sick. So in the health professions in Indonesia, there is no hot debate going on. What should we do? Shall we stick to the paradigm of health, or should we divert more funds for treatment of the sick? These are the dilemma which we face at the national level. At the micro level, of course, we face the dilemma, as has been also discussed yesterday, of scarce resources to provide proper treatment for patients. When we have only limited number of, for instance, life support machines whom should we give it to? When it is a medical futility, then the decision is easy. You don't give it to those kind of patients. But when those patients have a chance to get better, if they are put on life support for a short time, then the decision will be more difficult. So this is then the paradigm at the dilemma we are facing at the micro level. And jokingly, the doctors in Indonesia say that when we are faced with the situation of whom to give this, the priorities of giving this limited support, for instance, for life support machines, then well, we just wait for the electric company. When there's power failure and the patient will die, and we give it to the other patient. So because we have power failures in Indonesia, so that takes the decision out of the hands of the doctors. But this is a serious problem, a serious ethical problem which a doctor must decide on when he is treating these kind of patients. So what should we do next? The main important thing is education. Whom should we educate? Of course, we should educate the people. But I believe that it's also very important not only to educate the people, but education of special social and professional groups, including politicians, on the ethical problems and the scientific problems in health, so that the proper decisions can be made. And then we should also educate, of course, the professionals, the technicians, scientists, and specialists who are involved with these matters. Facing these problems, I think, is very difficult for us, but we need to do more research to decide at the national level which paradigm we should adhere to, and at the micro level we need maybe something like standard operating procedures in hospitals and so on, so that the limited resources can be allocated to the patients who needs it most, and also to patients who will benefit of it most. I think, in short, that is what I've got to say at this occasion. I hope I have stayed within the 10 minutes, and I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Ali, please.
Thank you for the presentation. Just I wonder, in Indonesia, how you evaluate your program with including the principle of justice, whether your approach is based on distributive justice or you have another approach to this issue, especially considering urban and rural area, how you consider to distribute facilities between these two. Thank you.
Well, at present, the decisions are made more based on political, it's more political than more on ethical basis, because if we look at the resources allocated, then we can see that most of the resources are allocated in the big centers of population, where maybe for the politicians it's important for them that to get the votes of the people. So they support programs which are more beneficial to people who are living in big population areas rather than programs in the rural areas. Formerly we had family planning programs, we had what we call self-service health post programs, which cares for the people in the rural area, but this support for these programs in the last few years have been diminished, so that the people in the rural area are having more difficulties in getting health care compared to the people in the urban areas.
Thank you. Yang Guan.
If there are few patients want to get the kidney transplant, one is very young and one is old, another one is the famous actor. And the younger is have much money. Which one would be get this kidney?
To tell you the truth, we don't have that problem because we don't do much transplantation. So we don't have that problem. Most of the people who want to have good transplantation go to China.
You mentioned that more research is required in this field, but my question is the research work or the findings of the research work are these going to be taken into account by the politicians who, at the end, they make the decisions? So do they take into consideration the findings of the research works?
That is what we have, why we have to educate the politicians. So it is, I think, the duty of the academics to sell these findings to those people, to the politicians, maybe also to non-NGOs and so on, so that we can put pressure on programs which we think will be more just and have more benefit for the people.
I'm asking this question because in Bangladesh, many research works take place and many findings are there, but they're not really taken into account when the actual policies are made.
Yeah,
so I was asking you this question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this great reminder of the difficulties of being ethical when you haven't got much money to play with. And the last paper as well, I was very struck by that. But my question is, in Pacific countries, a substantial proportion of the health budget is provided by external aid, by aid donors. So I was just wondering, how ethical are aid donors in listening to what you think are the key problems, or pushing their own particular research agendas or what they think are priorities? Is that an issue in your health provision?
Yes, it is an issue that most aid programs have their own particular issues, interested in own, so that for some programs it is difficult for us to get support.
Most of the corporate hospitals want the patient to be in the ICU unit. So there is no question of their, I think, scarce resources. Do you have a corporate culture in your country?
What do you mean corporate hospital?
Corporate hospital culture. Corporate hospitals, in the multi-corporations, they have their own hospitals.
Oh, I see, okay. We have only very few corporate hospitals in that sense. Maybe our oil company, National Oil Company, has its own private hospital, but very few. So most hospitals in Indonesia are public government hospitals.
I guess, can I pursue the next bit of my question, which was how many donor agencies, Daryl, do you know, is there a need for ethics courses within donor agencies? I mean, seriously, what has been done within UNESCO itself, for example, or with UN? Thank you.
Well, I don't know how many donor countries, but it's not, sometimes it's not the donor agency, but like the United States. The United States will not support program which includes abortion or something like that. So it's not the donor agencies themselves, but maybe other countries should be also motivated.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good. We were on the IBC together for several years. In response to Peggy's question on the ethics of donor agencies, the only UN organization with internal ethics committees is FAO. WHO had one when necessary for receiving funds from external donors, NIH, and in fact, several years ago, NIH held up grants as it forced the WHO to restructure its ethics committee. But many donor agencies have varying ethical guidelines, and I have made some studies in the last few years on this, and I haven't yet published it, but I think more and more should be brought into the some coordinated program of how to coordinate ethics, for example, World Bank, and that we have some ongoing debates, I think. The next paper is by Zhang from Vietnam, and Tran Han Zhang, and she will talk on challenges for gender studies in the era of ever-growing development of biology.
Challenges of the gender study in our discussing. Here I raised very basic questions for the gender studies in the area of ever-growing biology. First of all, I would like to talk about the theoretical foundations of the feminism and gender theory. In all corners of the world, there are women don't have the equal right as men in almost of the field of the social life. Here I could raise the gender inequality in political. Actually, the gender study started already in the 14th century by the first work of the French scholar Christine de Pizan. Here she raised the question of the sexual slavery of the women to the men, and all corner in the world, first from the European country and the America, the feminist movement is developed time to time. Of course, every country have their own cultures, the legal systems and socio-economical status. But the same question is the gender inequality. Next. And the inequality here means all women are inferior to men, not in the vice versa. The feminism raised the question of the inequality between men and women have the biological foundations. The basic term of the gender studies is the sex and gender. Sex is a term which implies biological differences between women and men. It's mean the genital organ. According to the feminists and the gender theorists, the sex is nature embedded and it is unchangeable. And gender is a term which implies socio-cultural differences between men and women. And it implies also the social expectation of what women do and what men do. And gender is socially educated, imitated, and gender is unchangeable. It means the men can do the taking care of the children, of the ill people in the family. That the works are considered the women work. But here already come the paradox of the sciences. First, biology providing feminists and gender theorists with a scientific foundation for theorizing their finding. But now, biology giving seeds of the idea, demolishing feminism and gender studies. Right now, the ever-growing development of the biology, main appearance of potential seeds, demolishing feminism and gender theory, with the biological successes, for example, the changing sex, for decide, human cloning reproductions, artificial fertilizations, etc. And now we are the gender theorists and feminists facing the challenges. Now raising the, I would raise here the very basics theoretical problem emerge right now. Now sex is changeable. So sex is no longer unchangeable. It is a basic term that we use in the theory, the gender theory. So is there the third sex? I'd like to ask all of you, the biologists. And if there is the third sex, so how do the human being with the artificial sex act in all fields of the social life? And here the questions, what does society expect from the human being with artificial sex not nature embedded at all so far? Oh, no, last. And, yeah. And do the human being with the artificial sex have a gender in identities? It is a big question. Now, in my opinion, it is a big question for us, the gender theorists. And how, if they have the identity, so how they can socially learn and imitate how to act. And from whom do they learn and imitate? It is from, I mean, from the nature embedded or nature born human being or artificial human being. Are there gender inequality among the nature born human being and artificial human being? It is a big question. And to answer these questions help us, the gender theorists. Now I see the potential collapse of the gender theories. What will be the reason of the existing feminism and gender studies if we cannot answer this basic question? So I would like to end my presentation here, and and I do hope have the questions and discussion with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we have a new champion for shortest time. Ivo, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Before I came here, I had set up the Korean Society for Gender-Specific Medicine. And I think that your presentation has some relation with gender-specific biological research, but your presentation is something different from I expected. But you mean I think you said many SF-like fantasy and artificial sex or the artificial human. I think it is far from the today's medicine or level of medicine. It's, I think, the far from now. But I think the more important thing is we had gender inequality in medical research, because over two-thirds of all medical research is about only men, for only men. And we don't have any enough data for women, you know. And I give you an example. And 10 years ago or 20 years ago, there was a big research for aspirin's cardioprotecting effect in the United States. And their result is the aspirin will protect the angina pectoris, the cardiological disease. But the research was only about for men. And this March in New England Journal of Medicine, new study arised. The study is for women. The result is contradictory for the previous result. Nowadays, until nowadays, the women eat aspirin for nothing, no effect for them. And we will find more differences and more gender-specific biological phenomena between men and women. And some feminists worried that because they think the woman and the man naturally same, they have been thinking. But I'm thinking no new change appears in the field of gender-specific biological research. Yeah, I mean that. Thank you.
Thank you for your information. And here I thought that I skipped already some, two slides. I think so. Here I also mentioned the terms and the opinion of point of view of the structure, the functions, structural theorism. It is the theory of the Thakut person. We are arguing about the functions of the men and women. I think that I would back to my skip slide later. But your information that the theories, then the gender theories was made from the 14th century, is not updated with the theory right now. But I don't mean that in the 14th century we already had the biological foundations for feminists and the gender theories. But later on, the question raised in the 14th century, but that time the feminists and the gender theorists didn't have any scientific foundations. Until 18th and 19th century, the feminists and gender theorists come up with the conclusion that have to use the biological foundation for theorizing the finding. And now you gave me the I would say the new information that about the theories, the biologists only do the experiments with men, not women. Is that right? I'm trying to understand your information. So I think it is from your experience. We had of course, we gender theorists don't do the experiment, the biological theory experiments. Just we gave the information from the biologist. For example, the experiment of the brain functions, and that experiment defends for our arguments about the even function, even abilities of men and women. So, is it right?
go to up next, please.
You are trying to relate, this feminism and gender studies with, advancement in biological research. Now, with the breakthroughs in biological research, I think the role of male in reproduction is going to be, more and more irrelevant. And therefore, I think in future, male subjugation, at least on reproductive terms, will be over. So how do you react to that?
Yeah, it is a big question. Big question. I mentioned here that now the biology give very important foundations for the gender theories. So far, the gender is changeable. It is socially and culturally changeable. For example, taking care of children, taking care of ill member of the family, and doing house chores, household chores, etc. And I do hope that biology can help us change the natural embedded functions of men and women. Men now will be able to bear children, and women will take care of the household and will be the breadwinner for the family. I do hope.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I volunteer. But I found that in many, it depends on the fee, of course, as was pointed out in the slide before. No, seriously, it was an interesting issue, but I found many people in Japan, more men were less willing to become pregnant than, but also some women also said they kind of felt it was they would lose their meaning if men could also become pregnant, and I found that rather sad as a reflection that we couldn't do it half and half, one child take turns. It seems a good idea.
Yeah.
Irina is next. Irina is next, yeah. Come here, yeah. Thank you.
I suppose my comment was related to Gupta's previous one, but a lot of biologists, now that more and more is understood about the sexual differentiation of human beings in the biological sense, not gender, which is a social concept, feel that there are as many sexes as there are human beings, because the human sexuality is open frame, and there's a lot of recent information coming up, for example, with the opening up of what transsexuals feel, and that there, at least in the West, there's a lot of transgendered transsexuals, post-operative. And it's only about 2 months ago I saw a paper that showed that transsexuals have got slightly different genetics. They've got changes in some of the genes which control sexual differentiation, so it is identifiable, and it's very, perhaps not wise to, maybe assign a sex to anyone and then assign a corresponding gender, because the biology one is just like waves. It's just moving, it's changing, we're learning so much. Yes.
Yes, I think it is the nature's changeable. You mean your example is it is changes from generation to generation in one family, or you mean the changing the sexuality?
Yes, what it means to be a male or a female in biological terms. Well, you mentioned maybe there's a third, but there are probably millions.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it is a continuum from complete maleness to complete femaleness.
Yes,
it's
even as the gay and lesbian. Yes, now I think that is very difficult to discuss the broader in terms of gay and lesbian existing now in the world, and is increasing. The number of gay and lesbian is increasing now. But here I don't want to make the issues broader, because here I'd like to raise only very basics issues in the relations between the gender theory and the biology. Or
I understand that.
Yeah.
Talking about, you mentioned lesbian is increasing. It isn't really. It's been about the same for thousands of years. It's only the identification now that the gay community can openly acknowledge their gayness. That seems to be increasing, but it's also always been around about 10% of the population.
Yes.
And the same thing for transsexuals.
Yes.
It's something like 2% perhaps of the population.
Sure. First, I put those questions here in my presentations. The question of the sex, the sex of the gay and lesbian. It is the third or the fourth or the fifth, but I decided not to make it make the issues, make the theme broader, because but I understand that it is one of the big question that we, the gender theorists, should have to put in our agenda of the studies about the new phenomenon of the society. Not so new. I mean, in compare of the maybe with the time of the 14th or 15th century maybe, or in Vietnam now is the not nature gay and nature's lesbian, but they are imitate from the others. And it's like like a flow from abroad, and actually it is artificial gay and artificial lesbian.
Right,
but it is now is increasing.
Yeah, any categorization is artificial. So perhaps
there's a question.
Leave that alone and allow everyone to have their own sex, whichever way, and not classify that into a gender mode, which is social.
Yes, it is. Thank you for your question.
Okay, make it very brief, please. Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
No, I agree with Dr. Irina. You cannot call anybody an artificial, because that term, because every human being has a sexual preference. For example, there are only two sexes, male and female. Only when there is a defect in the sexual differentiation, there you become a doubtful. Whether if a person is having a external genitalia which is not compatible with his genetic sex, and if he has a female genitalia with a male genotype, naturally those people will grow up with the girls so that they want to have a girl's orientation, and vice versa. So the terminology is slightly different, and I think there is lots of work done by Dr. Professor John Money, which gives a very great background on this particular aspect.
Yeah, thank you.
Camille, please. Yeah.
This is really a conference on bioethics, and the kind of research which I give full credit to the speaker really is, to my mind, a construct. We've been constructing so many subjects for research. We want to have gender, we want to have biology, we want to prove that one proves or disproves the other, and how we're going to utilize knowledge. We're all human beings, and human beings are created for a purpose, whatever you like to think. And if you look at human nature, it hasn't changed for thousands and thousands of years. And I think if we're going to do research today and discuss all these things, we have to keep a sense of balance. And if we want to have people who choose to be out of balance in one direction or another, maybe that's their prerogative. But when we start on this kind of gender research, and I know in some countries like Scandinavia, you can get 6 months baby leave if you're a guy, and wash your nappies, and the wife can go off and work. It's okay. But what are we really doing? Somebody talked about 4,000 years ago, so I suggest you all read the I Ching. Chinese can tell us a little bit about the role of the creative and the opposite the, we might get a little bit better in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paper before lunch. We need Philippe here as well. Paper is from Togo, okay? And Kwame Christophe Dikonon will talk about the teaching of ethics of science and technology in African universities. You've changed your clothes from last night, and Philippe will not sing a song, he'll translate where necessary. Thank you.
Bien, je voudrais remercier l'UNESCO de m'avoir invité à cette réunion, bien que je vienne d'une partie de l'Afrique où on parle le français.
I would like to thank UNESCO for having invited me to this meeting, even though I'm coming from a part of Africa where we speak French.
Et je suis philosophe de formation et ma spécialité est l'éthique de l'environnement. Et je vais parler de l'enseignement de l'éthique de la science et de la technologie dans les universités africaines.
I am a philosopher specialized in environmental ethics, and I'm going to talk about the teaching of the ethics of science and technology in African universities.
Et je n'ai pas l'ambition de vous apprendre grandes choses. C'est plutôt moi qui ai beaucoup appris de vous ces jours.
I don't think I will teach you many things. It's rather me who learned a lot from you lately, these days.
J'ai beaucoup appris de vous et soyez sûrs, je vais partager ça avec mes collègues en Afrique.
I learned a lot from you, and be sure that I will share what I learned with my colleagues in Africa.
Et mon exposé va prendre le point suivant. Une première introduction, et après l'introduction viendra la partie sur les raisons pour lesquelles nous devons enseigner l'éthique de la science dans les universités africaines.
There will be first an introduction, and then I will explain the reasons why we have to teach ethics in African universities.
Et enfin viendra une petite conclusion.
Finally will come a small conclusion.
Yeah. J'ai fait un petit résumé pour vous montrer un peu de quoi je parle.
This is a short summary for you to see what I'm talking about.
Je crois que ce n'est pas un luxe d'enseigner l'éthique dans les universités africaines. Ce n'est pas un luxe, mais c'est une nécessité pour nous d'enseigner l'éthique à travers une solidarité et coopération internationale, le dialogue sud-sud.
So it is not luxury to teach ethics, but it is something necessary. It should be done through international solidarity and cooperation, South-South dialogue.
Quand on voit l'Afrique, ce qui frappe, c'est la pauvreté, la faim, la misère, la maladie et les guerres, les conflits.
What characterizes Africa is poverty, hunger, diseases and conflicts.
Et des collègues même africains nous demandent, mais qu'est-ce qu'on va faire avec l'éthique? Est-ce qu'on a besoin de l'éthique?
Even some African colleagues are asking, do we really need ethics? What are we going to do with ethics?
Et dans les programmes de coopération nord-sud ou sud-sud, on ne voit jamais de bourse pour la bioéthique à nos étudiants.
When you look at cooperation programs, you'll never see grants for bioethics for the students.
Bien. Alors, nous avons fait quand même quelque chose en Afrique. Et ce que nous faisons, en Afrique est située dans les pays qui parlent l'anglais.
Nevertheless, we are doing something in Africa, and this is happening especially in English-speaking countries.
Par exemple, nous avons ce que nous appelons PABIN, qui regroupe tous les bioéthiciens de l'Afrique.
We have PABIN, which gathers all bioethicists in Africa.
Donc nous avons des médecins, des juristes, des philosophes dans PABIN.
We have lawyers, philosophers, doctors in this PABIN.
Et en juillet dernier, nous avons organisé à Dakar la première réunion de bioéthique pour l'Afrique de l'Ouest et l'Afrique du Centre, à Dakar, au Sénégal, en juillet dernier.
Last July was organized the first bioethics meeting for West and Central Africa in Dakar, Senegal.
Et en Afrique du Sud, nous avons Sareti.
In South Africa, we have Sareti,
qui dispense une formation en bioéthique.
It gives training in bioethics.
Et il y a également à l'université de Cape Town un centre de bioéthique de l'université de Cape Town.
In Cape Town, there is a center, a bioethics center.
Et actuellement, il y a aussi en Égypte, au Caire, un centre qui est le HREPIE, qui s'occupe aussi de la formation en bioéthique. C'est dans le département de médecine en épidémiologie.
In Cairo, Egypt, there is this HRETIE, which is training in ethics in the medical department.
Et finalement, nous avons aussi à Ibadan, au Nigeria, le West African Bioethics Training Program.
In Nigeria.
Oui, à Ibadan, à l'université, dans le département, dans la faculté de médecine.
In medical faculty.
Nous avons des raisons pour aller de l'avant dans l'enseignement de l'éthique de la science et de la technologie en Afrique. Première raison, c'est la déclaration de l'UNESCO sur la science et l'utilisation de la connaissance scientifique. En son article 41, qui dit que tous les scientifiques doivent être enseignés en éthique.
The first reason is the UNESCO Declaration on Science and the Use of Scientific Knowledge. Article number 41 says that every scientist should be trained and taught in ethics.
Et il s'agit des scientifiques africains aussi.
That means African scientists as well.
Nous avons aussi d'autres raisons. Si nous prenons le domaine de la santé, dans le domaine de la santé, la technoscience qui pénètre ce domaine entraîne des questions éthiques et l'Afrique a des questions spécifiques dans ce domaine.
The second reason in the health field is the technoscience bringing questions, and especially in Africa.
Parce que, par exemple, dans le domaine de la santé, les préoccupations en Afrique, c'est qu'on ne veut pas voir le continent transformé en paradis des essais cliniques, des essais pharmaceutiques sauvages.
We do not want to see Africa to be a kind of paradise for experimentation and wild medical experimentations.
Dans le domaine de la communication également, la préoccupation en Afrique, c'est comment faire pour avoir accès aux nouvelles technologies de l'information et de la communication.
Another reason is the African concern to know how to get to the new technologies of information and communication.
Dans le domaine de l'environnement, l'Afrique a beaucoup de ressources et dans l'exploitation et l'utilisation de ces ressources se posent des questions éthiques à l'Afrique des questions de justice.
Africa has a lot of natural resources, and the exploitation, the use of these resources leads to ethical questions as well, and justice questions.
Et nous avons aussi dans le domaine de l'environnement, par exemple, des problèmes d'hygiène. Le milieu, le cadre de vie manque beaucoup d'hygiène. Donc on a besoin de réfléchir encore sur le principe de prévention de la maladie, pas seulement de la guérison de la maladie.
Still in environment, there are also many problems of hygiene in Africa, and so we don't only have to think about curing, but also prevention of diseases.
Dans le domaine de la nourriture, le problème de malnutrition, le problème de sous-alimentation, et maintenant avec les organismes génétiquement modifiés, l'Afrique se pose aussi des questions éthiques.
Regarding food, there are of course many problems because of lack of food, and now with the rising of GMOs, Africa is also asking ethical questions.
Dans le domaine de l'énergie également, nous posons des questions éthiques en Afrique. Par exemple, comment faire pour une meilleure distribution de l'énergie, de l'électricité dans les zones rurales, etc., une justice distributive.
In energy as well, Africa has questions how to distribute ethically and fairly the energy.
Et donc nous avons des raisons que l'éthique soit enseignée aussi dans les universités africaines, car il s'agit des responsables de l'Afrique de demain.
So all these reasons advocates for the teaching of ethics in universities, because the students of today are the deciders of tomorrow.
Et comment nous pouvons maintenant aller de l'avant? Nous avons des avantages. En Afrique, les universités existent déjà. Nous avons des programmes dans les facultés de sciences, de médecine, que nous pouvons utiliser pour enseigner l'éthique. Les structures existent déjà.
So to move forward, there are several advantages, and one of these advantages is that structures already exist. There are universities and master degrees.
Et nous avons aussi des programmes spéciaux d'éthique. Par exemple, dans les départements de philosophie, on peut faire l'éthique jusqu'au niveau doctorat. On peut utiliser aussi ces programmes.
Another advantage is that there are specific programs, for example, in philosophy department, it is possible to study ethics and do a PhD.
Et nous avons besoin d'une véritable recherche sur les traditions africaines pour pouvoir les marier avec les normes internationales de bioéthique.
There is a need to research on the African traditions, so to link these programs with the international programs.
Et dans ce domaine, je pense que nous avons beaucoup à apprendre de l'Asie et du Pacifique. Vous avez fait beaucoup de recherches sur vos traditions, ça peut nous inspirer en Afrique.
Africa can learn a lot from what has been done in Asia and the Pacific, because Asia and the Pacific was based a lot on the traditions, and Africa can learn about that too, based on its tradition.
Nous n'avons pas que des atouts, mais nous avons aussi des obstacles. Et un premier obstacle, c'est que nous avons besoin de donner à l'enseignement de la bioéthique et de l'éthique de la science ou de la technologie en général une base légale.
So there are advantages but obstacles as well. The first obstacle is the lack of national lawful basis to the teaching of the ethics of science and technology.
Nous avons besoin aussi qu'il y ait une plus grande visibilité du programme de l'UNESCO sur l'enseignement de l'éthique, de la science et de la technologie dans nos pays africains.
The second obstacle is the need to increase the knowledge of the UNESCO program on the ethics of science and technology in Africa.
Nous avons besoin aussi de la formation des formateurs.
There is need also for training of trainers.
Et enfin, nous avons besoin de centres de documentation spécialisés dans le domaine de la bioéthique.
Finally, there is a need for documentation centers specialized in bioethics.
Et pour réaliser tout cela, nous comptons sur la solidarité et la coopération internationale.
To achieve these objectives, we count on the international solidarity and cooperation.
Et je suis heureux d'être avec vous ici en Asie parce que j'ai beaucoup appris de vous et je vais transmettre ça à mes collègues en Afrique.
And I'm happy to be here in Asia with you because I learned a lot from you and I will share that with my colleagues in Africa.
Surtout le programme les textbooks que vous allez faire cet après-midi m'intéresse beaucoup. Je vais prendre un pour mes collègues en Afrique.
Especially the textbook that you will do this afternoon, I will take one and bring it to my colleagues in Africa.
Alors, nous avons besoin d'être ensemble pour faire avancer l'éthique de la science et de la technologie. Et je termine par cette citation d'un auteur français qui dit « Science sans conscience n'est que ruine de l'âme ».
Well, science without conscience is the work of mind. Spirit.
Ok, merci beaucoup de votre aimable attention.
Merci beaucoup. Any questions? Yes, Miyako, please.
Oui, je parle français. J'ai entendu de médicaments nouvelles, par exemple pour le sida, et à utiliser si c'est efficace ou non. C'était accepté par le gouvernement d'Afrique ou soit invité. Mais si ça point de vue de bioéthique, qu'est-ce que vous pensez? Il ne faut pas le faire ou soit accepter?
Oui.
You translate, please.
I did not get the beginning of the question.